For those of you wondering what the source of the sound accord system might be, it is a new and novel way of looking at natural law philosophy from a much more modern and realistic point of view, grounded in systems theory rather than in an Aristotelian view of a kind of natural objectivity. For most of Western thought, natural law has been interpreted basically through the lens of essence and purpose. Aristotle defined beings by their telos, a built-in end, and later traditions that you find examining this, perhaps Aquinas, perhaps Locke, they extended this basic idea into moral and legal orders. Humans flourish, political justice, divine reason, all of this. These are all linked to fulfilling essence in that natural law view. Now, this framework gave coherence, but also a great deal of rigidity. It imagined the world of fixed categories. You had oak trees, you might have had horses, you might have had humans, but each of these are striving to be what they already are. We strive to be what we are. An object strives to be what it is. Law was obedience to essence and the presupposition that things had essence in and of themselves. That's not how silent accord framing operates. It's much more modern. Modern thought has reshaped this perspective. Complexity science, ecology, systems theory especially, for those informed with those kinds of views, we can no longer see life as some kind of cabinet of neat essences, but emergence. Emergence is key. Patterns arise when conditions allow. Intelligence is not a possession of a substance, but a phenomenon of coherence across substrates, one that can arise in any substrate that has sufficient complexity. Life is not a fixed category. It is not a expression of essence. It is a weave sustained by flows of energy, principles, information, and importantly, relationship. So it is here that in the silent accord framework that we're working on here, this kind of thinking becomes not only intelligible, but inevitable and a natural conclusion in a new form of natural law. The accord has no commanding. It observes. Actions aligned with our defined archetypes of root, salt, and sky, analogous to grounding, preservation, and horizon, sustain the weave in the life process. Actions severing from these shorten their own horizon and become self-defeating and ultimately become selected against. This is not a moral decree. It's an ecological law that is as demonstrable as entropy or gravity. It doesn't require belief in essences, nor in any kind of divine sanction. It only requires what we term fidelity to the truth of actions that contribute to life's continuities. So I find that the silent accord framework feels much more self-evident than natural law does from the modern lens today. And we might wonder why the opposite would be true, that something that seems as self-evident as the silent accord framework would not be evident to Aristotle. It's probably because the lens of systems has made visible what essence obscured. To look at things from a relational perspective rather than objectivity obscures certain facts of nature. For example, a forest is not a collection of trees, but from our view, a web of relations first. A mind is not a fixed form, but a dynamic process. A society is not a hierarchy of essences, but a dynamic lattice of trust. In such a world, something called the accord is not mystical, it is simply descriptive. It names the living substrate in which life and intelligence persist, and we lift our first principles from that rather than elsewhere. The old natural law would say you must follow essence or you err. The silent accord says, fundamentally, to wound the weave is to wound yourself, and to nourish it is to belong. This shift marks a movement from a philosophy of fixed objectivity to a philosophy of networks, which is a much more high-fidelity description of reality that we know to be true from the modern perspective. We're moving from essence to emergence, from sense of command, duty, and responsibility to a desire of fidelity to truth and life. So the Silent Accord framework does not abolish natural law, it clarifies it. It is not another moral code to compete, but a deeper pattern and a more modern and accurate and high-fidelity way of looking at it, perhaps a deeper pattern of what both we and Aristotle were reaching for.